Welcome back, everyone, to OpenLine. Talking about redistricting, those new maps that have been proposed that would divide Davidson County into 3 separate congressional districts. And we're talking about the impact on the black community and black voters. We have with us 2 people from the NAACP, the president of the NAACP in Tennessee, Gloria Sweet-Love and Dr. Sakou Franklin. He is the redistricting coordinator with the NAACP. And let's go back to the phones. Willie May is on the line. Hello, Willie May.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Okay. I have a comment. Hello.
You may need to turn down your TV. It helps turn down your TV.
Wait just a moment. I need to turn down my TV.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. That's good advice going forward.
Okay. I have been in Tennessee, in Nashville, the majority of my life. I was here during the civil rights era. And it's always been stated that it's not race. We're not considering race. But I found the government in this area have always considered race. And I'm wondering, where is the justice? There is no justice in taking away people's civil rights. Even our schools are still desegregated the way that they were before Brown versus the Board of Education. The voting rights are being taken away, and they can say that it's race, but those of us that are African Americans, we see something completely different. And that's one of the things that people need to consider, because they're saying that they are just. It is just unjust to continually have to go through this time after time.
Okay, Willie May, thank you.
And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Willie May. Thank you very much. President Sweet-Love, your thoughts on Willie May's call?
Well, I have to agree with her. I was a teenager when Dr. King was marching in Memphis and around the country. And I did not think, I knew growing up, there was still a lot of things going on when my sons were growing up. But now my grandsons in high school and a couple of them in college, I did not think we would be facing the same kinds of things. But we still have to fight. We continue to have to fight forward to try to make this democracy live up to its name of truly being a democracy. And I think I think we have to train our children and our grandchildren and continue to tell each other we have to continue to fight to try to make things right. Okay.
Dr. Franklin, do you want to comment on what she said?
Yeah, I'll just comment. I'm going through John Lewis's last book called Across That Bridge, that was published shortly before his death. And he has this quote that's sticking with me. And it said that even I, quote unquote, even I who have looked down the barrel of a gun with only my faith to defend me, would say there is a unique hostility in these times that almost seems worse to me than what we experienced in the 1960s. And that hostility is coming from political actors who claim that race has nothing to do with that hostility. And that explains Cameron Sexton's comment that he had earlier this week about how race doesn't factor into this issue about redistricting.
Now, Cameron Sexton also said, said this is not, he said it's not gerrymandering. He said race didn't play into it. And he gave this argument: Davidson County will gain more representation. And again, let's show this map of Davidson County, just Davidson County, how it's divided 3 ways. Davidson County will gain more representation. It never hurts to have more people in Washington fighting for you. Actually, I think it helps Davidson County to be a party at the table when they're trying to get things out of D.C. And so what he's saying is now there'll be 3 congressmen who represent part of Davidson County, and that's good for Davidson County in the end. Dr. Franklin, start with you. What do you think of that?
No, I mean, none of those lawmakers ever asked to step foot in Davidson County once they're elected. When it comes to, as the Equity Alliance pointed out today in their testimony, when it comes to something such as the infrastructure bill, right? How do groups lobby for infrastructure if they're not for Davidson County specifically? Think about something like this. Lawmakers, they pass policy and they pass legislation. But the other half of what lawmakers do is what's called casework. So if you think about immigration issues, if you think about you need a letter to go to West Point, if you think about you need to get information to 18-year-olds about voter registration, if you think about what happens if someone is unfairly arrested, if you think about what happens if we need a letter, which we've had before, if we need a letter from a member of Congress to send to MDHA to support fair employment policies. Think about all that constituent work, which takes up really the meat and guts of what legislatures do, right? There's a real possibility that if you live in the city of Nashville, you'll have no one to go to on those issues. Now that is a bad commentary on this redistricting plan. I mean, a real possibility that if you are unfairly arrested, if you are an undocumented person, if you need a letter to go to West Point, if you need a letter to go to MDHA, if you're at a North Nashville high school and you're seeking information around voter registration, all the constituent services that Congress does, right? There's a real possibility that you live in the city of Nashville, none of that will be attainable to you.
What you said, and let's put up that map again. What you said at the beginning of that is if a congressman in one of these districts would not have to go into Davidson County, is that right? You feel like Davidson County's representation would be so small that congressmen get elected for each of those districts, and they will not have to set foot in Davidson County? Now, they're all saying, of course, they will, and they're saying that won't happen, and they're saying we're going to go, we want to represent our district and that kind of thing. But why are you saying they would not have to step foot in Davidson County if they didn't want to?
If you're elected, then many of your constituent offices could be outside of Davidson County. You might have an office in Davidson County that may be staffed by one person who doesn't answer the phone or whatever the case might be. But most of your constituent services will not be in Davidson County. I mean, literally, you could have a lawmaker out of that 7th district who doesn't even know that Bordeaux doesn't even go into the Bordeaux community, which has the strongest black voting base in middle Tennessee. What about those Southeast Davidson County neighborhoods that are complicated, multilingual, multiracial? There's a possibility that if you're in one of those districts, you have no knowledge of what Nolensville Road or Nolensville Pike looks like, right? There's a real possibility that particularly exists. What if you're from Vanderbilt University and you want funding for you want money in the budget for Vanderbilt Hospital, right? All these things matter when it comes to representation. It's not just whether or not you actually raise your hand and vote for a bill. But much of the work is about constituent services, relationships. Do you find, a Congress member attending, as President Sweet-Love knows, attending an NAACP Freedom Fund banquet? All that has a possibility of disappearing, of going away almost entirely if this plan is adopted.
And Dr. Sweet-Love,
if you elect somebody from Wayne County, if you elect somebody from Wayne County that knows absolutely nothing about Bordeaux, knows absolutely nothing about one of the things this is not taken into account at all are there are most of our legislators live in very rural areas. Even Sexton, Crossville, I consider still rural. They know absolutely nothing about urban Nashville, the people, the conditions, the needs, the constituent services that are necessary. Dr. Franklin is exactly right. If you elect somebody from Stewart County and they also represent people in Nashville, this is a travesty. I mean, to even propose this is unbelievable.
I mean, can you imagine the police chief needing some money or needing some constituent services and having to travel to 3 different areas to ask for help from members of Congress?
Yes.
Can you really imagine the police chief, you know, or the sheriff or the fire chief, or could you really imagine a tornado sweeping through Nashville and the fire department or the mayor has to travel to 3 different congressional districts to ask for help? So where does the help go to, right? What if you have a tornado that hits Humphreys County and Bordeaux? Ooh, and you need an emergency budget or package, right? How do you negotiate that space?
Let me ask you this.
All the things that's going to come about.
Could this backfire? Let's say, you know, the goal here is for Republicans to get rid of a Democratic stronghold, and they've divided it 3 ways. But in doing so, they have put more Democratic votes in these Republican districts. And so I guess we have to break, but then I'm going to ask when we come back, could that backfire? Could some of these districts, could you find enough Democratic votes in some of these rural areas to take over some of these districts? We'll take a break, come back with that right after this.